All right, this is day 2.
So we're here day 2. We had a minor setback last night. We built everything and the system just wouldn't go past the post screen. It was locked up and we were kind of stumped for about a good hour. But with a little bit of Google research, we realized we weren't the only ones, and we found out that it was actually a problem with the graphics card. It's so new, the 780 GeForce. We had to switch it out temporarily for I have an older one in here to go ahead and boot it up, and we can get the BIOS. We need to change some settings in there to let the motherboard be more compatible with the new graphics card. So once we
So what are we gonna do now?
So here we just had a little setback again. We couldn't get in. We thought it was a hardware issue, but it looks like the batteries in the wireless keyboard died. So sometimes it's the littlest things here. There we go. So now we're in here. So now what we're gonna do is shut it down, and then we're gonna install the rest of the RAM so we get back to our 64 gigs. And then that way we can use that as our baseline. So let's go ahead and put these RAM chips back in.
Shit, sorry.
That's okay. And we've had battery issues die on the keyboard. We thought we messed up the computer somehow again, but actually it was just battery. So we got those changed. You put the memory, all 8 chips in there. You can see them all lined up next to the processor. And we went ahead and booted it back up, and we were able to get in the BIOS. And you can see here on the screen, we've got our Core i7 3930 registers. And there's our 64 gigabytes right there of memory, so the motherboard is reading all our memory, so we're good there. So now we're going to do a little tweaking in here and get the settings correct in order to be able to use the 780 GeForce, NVIDIA GeForce 780. You need to go into BIOS, set PCI from EF. There you go. Now we're going to save. This setting right here was our problem. PCI ROM priority. We had to switch this to legacy ROM. And then we should be able to save this. Save and exit. And then we'll go ahead and power down, and let's put our GeForce card in here and give it a shot. So, and then I'll remove the temporary card in there, and then we're going to go ahead and put in our nice brand new GeForce card right there. Yes, we have 4 PCI Express slots. So the referred to the manual. The manual says to use. We have 2 16 times and 2 8 times. So they're saying if you're using a single card, to make sure it's in one of the 2 16 times slots just for maximum performance. So I went ahead and moved this down to the 3rd slot down here, and we can actually see on the motherboard it does say 16x. So at least we know that we're in the right spot there. So we'll. Okay, so we got our GeForce card in there now. We put it in the appropriate slot and went ahead and attached the PCI Express power connectors required from the power supply. So we're ready to go ahead and fire it up here, and let's see if we're able to get into the BIOS. So this is the moment of truth. BIOS took a little while to wake up there. I think since it's the first time. There we go, and now we're in. So now we're good to go. We're able to use our new card. Now we're ready to check out the settings. We'll go through this real quick and make sure we got the optimized defaults loaded, and then we'll go ahead and install Windows. So let's give it a shot here and double check where we are. We just installed our PCI Express wireless adapter. So that way we should be good to go there. And then we'll make sure we connect the antennas.
What are we using? Asus.
And Asus dual band wireless in 600, so we'll be able to hit the 5 gigahertz band, which has a lot less traffic on there. That's the 2.4 gigahertz bands where most people are on with their wireless, so there's a lot more congestion, so this one gives us some options. Yeah, we decided to go with this model because we put the graphics card in the slot down here, and there's only one regular PCI slot which is actually being covered by this graphics card, so we would have to move the graphics card to access that slot. If we move the graphics card up, you know, we're kind of close to the main sources of heat here, so we want to kind of keep things a little bit more open to increase airflow. So this particular wireless adapter was the mini PCI and Express, and it fit in there perfectly, and that way we have a lot more space to kind of let the air flow and get rid of that heat. So now we're ready to go ahead and fire it back up and install Windows 8, and then we'll be ready to do a little bit of overclocking, so let's check it out. Yeah, they had some deals going on when Windows 8 just came out. They, if you had the full version of Windows 7 for about 3 months there at the end of 2012, they let you upgrade to Windows 8 for, I believe, I think it was $30, something like that, or it might have even been $14.99 in certain instances. So definitely there was some cheaper ways to do it, but now, you know, they're charging you like about $100 for the full version of Windows 8 Pro, 64-bit. Maximum, which it could go all the way is 3.8 gigahertz. So what we're going to do with overclocking is say, no, the maximum is not 3.8. We're going to go all the way up to, you know, we're going to try 4.3, 4.4. We'll start out with, if we can hit that, we'll go up 4.5 or 6, and we'll see how high. The sky's the limit. We've seen some chips hit 5 gigahertz, but again, we want to keep it stable, keep it cool. We don't want to burn it out. Which is our 4 terabyte Western Digital traditional hard drive, and then here's our solid state 512 gigs 8 going, and it's screaming along right now because we have it all on this nice Samsung 840 Pro solid state drive. So right now it's getting in the final stages of Windows 8, and once we get in there, we'll download some drivers, make sure everything's updated, and then we'll go ahead and give it a chance with overclocking. Right now, yeah, we got into Windows 8, and definitely to bring it back to the give it the Windows 7 look. We're downloading a start menu, start button replacement. So I like classic shell. It's freeware and it runs very well, and I have this installed on all my Windows 8 machines, so I really like it and recommend it. I like the Intel burn test. This will actually do some stress testing of our processor and verify that it's actually able to hold the overclock. I always hide the download button here. Let's see, download latest release. This one looks good here. Let's actually do. So these are, each individual cores are like a separate processor, so it's really cool. You have 6 in parallel. So right here we're actually seeing what our real-time temperatures are. So you can see some of the cores are in the 30s, 40s. Nice thing about this shows you minimum, maximum. Looks like the maximum we've hit so far is only in the low 40s, which is nothing. This processor, I think, is meant to go up to 91 degrees Celsius, so we have a lot of headroom there, about 50 degrees headroom. Granted, the load is only 10 to 15% here on the processor, but we're going to do some burn-in testing shortly, and then we're going to see what our maximum hits. So we definitely want to stay well below this 91, probably in the 70 to 75 range would be a good area. The nice thing here is your frequency. This shows you actually how fast your processor is running. So right now we're getting about 3.7, 3.8 gigahertz because we're doing some installation here with updates. So we're definitely going to try to raise that up. And you can see it fluctuates. We hit 1.2, so the processor is dynamic. Based on the load, it'll underclock it to save power and to save on the heat. You can see our multiplier is 12 to 38, so we can hit 1.2 to 3.8 gigahertz because our bus speed is at 100. So this gives us a lot of information. Our main board, there's our gigabyte main board, gives you some information on revision. Memory, so here's our 64 gigs, and we can see our memory speed. Now we may want to tweak this a little bit because our memory chips actually can run a little bit, tighten up the timing, so we'll definitely be looking at that in the BIOS. Memory speed 666 megahertz, so 1 to 10. So we should be running at about, should be 1600 megahertz. So we'll definitely verify that in the BIOS. We're doing our Windows experience benchmark here. We're gonna, we've got this going. We're gonna see where we stand with. This is all running stock speeds. Yeah, you can see here our processor 8.4, memory's 8.4, graphics are 8.3, and then we got our hard drive 8.2. So anything above, 8.0 is really screaming fast. Even in the 7s is very, very fast. So we're way ahead. This is at stock speed, so we're going to try to get these processor and memory even higher. So we're going to go ahead and reboot it, and let's do a little bit of overclocking.
Yeah,
so
this part of the Samsung solid state drive, the Magician software, this is actually benchmarking your drive just to make sure that you're getting optimum performance out of your drive. So we're definitely looking for sequential reads or 553 megabytes. We're above what the specs are rated, and our random input outputs are close to what we're supposed to get as well. So these may fluctuate depending on what's running in the background, but you've definitely got a screaming fast machine right here.
There's one thing, here it is. So basically we're trying to install the Semantic antivirus, and there is actually a Windows patch that was automatically installed that will prevent the installation of that. So we just have to go ahead and uninstall that patch first, and we're going to disable Windows Defender as well, because we're not going to need that anymore. Okay, so what we're going to do next here is we're going to do a little benchmarking and burn-in test with the standard clock speed here, the Core i7 3930. So let's go ahead and open up our CPU ID utility to check our clock speed, our temperatures. So you can see right here we're kind of running at I'd say it's probably about maybe 6th or 7th. I mean, over the years I've built the system back in 2002, and a lot of the components I've still kept. The case is the same, original, and I think I still have the original DVD drive in there, even the floppy drive, if you believe it, that still works. But I've updated the processor, motherboard, memory. Usually if there's package deals, I'll go ahead and do that. Last upgrade was in 2009 for those 3 components, and then recently, within the past 6 months, I just purchased a water cooling system for that same setup, so I was able to overclock the system even more. So I basically got a nice little upgrade just with an $80 upgraded water cooler. So it's kind of neat to do that with one of these PCs, is that you're not locked in, and you can really customize it the way you want and upgrade it when you want. So instead of throwing it away and starting over, you can just upgrade components as you need to. So memory, we're going to start this, and basically now we're running at 100% CPU load on all 6 cores. So you can see right here that we're barely just in the mid 40s. So you can almost hear the fans kicking up a little bit. These are auto sensors. We'll increase the fan speed slightly to kind of compensate for that. We're at 3.5. It shows it on both utilities.
Yeah.
So now we're kind of breaking, around 50 degrees Celsius. And again, I mean, 70 to 75 is probably a comfortable limit for what we want to do. So you can see we're barely around 50. So we really should have a lot of headroom here for overclocking. Your load is probably going to be near 100% when you're rendering. So this is going to be similar to kind of rendering video. So you can definitely see we have a lot of headroom here, and the processor is really keeping it cool. or the water cooling system. Yeah, I mean, it's still cool air, so we got a lot of headroom here. So let's go ahead and stop this test, and then we can experiment here with a little bit of overclocking. So yeah, right now we're in the motherboard. We're doing a little research on the processor here, and we're going to see what our best starting point is for overclocking. So we're going to try to start with a multiplier of 47. Is what these guys are recommending. So we're going to go on each core and do 47. 4.7 gigahertz. This is our multiplier. So 47 times 100 is our bus speed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go with 47 on each one. CPU core voltage. Yeah, basically, we just overclocked it. We're trying for 4.7 gigahertz. So we're going to give that a shot. We just rebooted it. It looks like we've got a black screen here. So this is not good. This is what you normally see if something is amiss. So it could be one of the settings. So once we reboot, we're going to go back into BIOS and do a little testing here. Don't worry, I've seen many blue screens before. Yeah, we just went with 4.5 gigahertz here, which is a nice, respectful overclock from 3.8. So you can see right here, here we go, 44.5 gigahertz we're running here on all 6 cores. Our temperatures right now are
Almost the same.
high 30s. So which now we're up a little toastier here, so we're about 60 degrees, upper 50s. So you can definitely see our overclock is adding a lot more heat there, but our water cooler is doing its job here and keeping it cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to let this run for a little bit. And 1.15, 1.2 is what Intel. So the higher the voltage, more chance for overclock, but also increased heat output. But like I said, we're still right around 60, which is very cool. So let's try this again. 8.4 is what we got last time. So let's rerun the assessment and see where we are here. Now the average chip may last, say, 12 to 15 years if you're lucky with minimal use. So say 12 to 15 years, but say you're doing extreme overclocking, you may only get 4 or 5 years out of the chip, maybe less, depending on how much you're overclocking it.
Mm-hmm.
So really that's where you're getting that extra cooling. So as long as the cooling is there, that's keeping it cooler, you'll prolong the life of your system. 8.4 that we had last time. So definitely that overclocking has helped it. And even our graphics card went up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost 1.1 point here in our hard drive, but that's because we probably have a lot of things open. But definitely the processor is a huge improvement there. A little bit higher than our 1.4. Let's go up to let's try 1.46.
What was it before? 1.4?
1.4, yeah, because our real voltage is a little bit lower than that. So let's go above this because we're losing a couple points there, just from the processor. So that's okay. So we'll go up that a little bit, and then let's go into our frequency states here, and then let's check advanced. And let's go ahead and go up to 4.8 and see what we can do here. This is what happened when the overclock is not stable, so you locked up. So that's okay, we'll restart and we'll go back in.
Okay.
Yeah, Windows boot screen froze.
So that's a no-go.
Yeah, that was a no-go at 4.8, so let's try 4.7
Yeah.
at one time. So that's why it's good to have all 6 cores operating at the
Oh,
same temperature
gotcha.
because, you know, it's utilizing ours. So right now we're at 4.7 gigahertz. So we've upped that
Oh,
voltage
shit.
a little bit.
Okay, good.
So it looks like we're stable here. We had to just increase the voltage on the processor. But let's go ahead and run some tests here and see if we're stable. So you can see right here 4.7 gigahertz. Our core voltage is up a little bit, 1.44, but we may just needed to give it that little extra voltage to get it going. So let's go ahead and start our stress test here. Now we're jumping up here in temps in the 60s.
More power?
Well, you know, it could be memory, so let's adjust memory timings and let's see if we can tweak that a little bit and see if we can get anywhere there. But it's an art, definitely an art. You know, this hexacore processor likes its voltage, so we got to feed it its power. It's like a monster in there.
I'd like to think so.
And we know it's the voltage and the processor is limiting it, but if it still locks up, then it could be something else. It could be the memory, it could be the one of the other
Graphics
components. Probably not. It's probably either the chipset on the motherboard or something may need a little bit more voltage as well. So that's where there's some wiggle room, and you have to really you know, attempt to see what works. So, you know, we're getting some strange errors, and we definitely don't want to see those things. So we may have to pull it back slightly here. So we're just finishing up day 2 here. We ending on a positive note. It looks like 4.5 gigahertz at about 1.4 volt for the CPU is pretty stable. So tomorrow we're going to update the BIOS with a beta BIOS from Gigabyte and see if that gets us anywhere, and try to hit 4.6, 4.7 if we can. So we're going to do some more testing. I think we're going to get there.